All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Snubs Podcast, the full ride here on the Chase Snubs Podcast with fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Good evening, sir. It is good to be back talking college football as we do every week here. And, oh, man, we're close. I can taste it, man.
You can taste it?
I can taste it. It's palpable.
What does college football taste like to you?
It tastes like fresh cut grass and Coors Light.
Okay.
No,
If you go outside right now, do you know off the top of your head what kind of grass you have, what kind of turf you have on your lawn?
I don't. It's probably not Bermuda. Those are the only two I know, to be honest. I don't know.
Augustine, is it crunchy?
To be honest, I would be willing to bet my life that it's not Bermuda because I feel like that's the nicer stuff because it doesn't seem that nice. But it's just got a riding lawnmower.
Did you?
So really moving on up in this world. Yeah.
John Deere?
It's actually a Murray. I call it the Aaron Murray. It's red and black. Me and Tori have joked too. We're gonna try to find a number 11 sticker. Maybe a Georgia G to put on it somewhere. But yeah, it's called the Aaron Murray.
You are a full-on suburban dad. Goodness gracious. Oh, my God. That is the most suburban Georgia dad I've ever heard. Man. It's a good time.
It's cutting the lawn mowing time in half. Needed it.
There you go. But you were about to say something else about the turf and the smell of the grass before I cut you off there.
I don't know. I don't think I had anything else really to add to it.
Well, sir, how is Zeus, Maddox? Are they revving up? Do they have jerseys? Do you and Tori put jerseys on them during the season?
We do not. They just raw dog it.
Well, there's probably a better way to say that one.
They just go. Honestly, they're usually not even wearing a collar, just around the house. They really are just naked. But but if people they got the chain collar. That's
turnover chain.
Yeah, something like that.
Is Zeus ready for
Zeus? Honestly, should have got a Zamir White jersey. I probably dropped the ball on that one, but I don't know if he'd rock it anyway.
Well, I'm ready for his pick of the week. The Zeus's home dog of the week. Excuse me.
That's
We're ready
true.
I got the graphics ready for that this fall. It's gonna be a fun time. I don't know what we can do with Maddox. What can we do for Maddox? Like to not leave him out? Is it just still a Zeus pick of the week, or are we doing Maddox, like some money Maddox type deal?
I don't know. Yeah, something with Mad Dog. I feel like we gotta throw in there. I don't know. We can brainstorm that.
Maybe a Mad Dog upset pick of the week from Maddox.
Maybe.
Matt Green. So we have a little bit of a dispute here in terms of how many days until college football. You say 17, and
16. Once this podcast is
correct.
Out. Yes.
But 15 today. If we were just going based on when we're recording this, late on a Wednesday, August 17th, which is crazy enough we are exactly a month away from my wedding, which is crazy. We're only a month out.
Woo.
That is very soon, very soon. But it's also 15 days because the University of Tennessee prioritizes getting ahead of schedule here, getting first and foremost in a lot of people's minds and letting people watch some fun football to get them acclimated back into the college football season. So they're playing on a Thursday night once again, where I'll be in the building. So we're actually 15 days away from Tennessee back under the lights in Neyland. And do you recall a certain number 15 in the history of the University of Tennessee who may or may not have had a great moment in Athens, Georgia, not too long ago, sir?
I do remember a good 15. I also saw your Twitter activity this afternoon to remind the Georgia fans of the anniversary of the last time that the Vols finally beat Georgia. I know it's been a while, but Jawan Jennings, that's the name.
Jawan Jennings.
Jawan James was the North Gwinnett alum that went to Tennessee. But Jawan Jennings, that was that was a heartbreaker. Lorenzo Carter, I don't think he's ever played coverage in his entire career at Georgia, and probably not in his NFL career. And they said, hey, you're 6'6". Go ahead and stay in the end zone, bat a ball down. And Lorenzo Carter didn't appear to know how to play coverage because he was standing in the back of the end zone. And he can't do much back there. And Juwan Jennings went up, made a play.
Well, also, just if you go back and watch the end of that game, I don't know when the last time you like there's a lot of good side-by-sides, and I like the radio calls because, folks, if you don't remember, it's like Jacob Eason finds Riley Ridley down the sideline where he breaks coverage, and it's like, oh, game over. You just assume that's it.
I think like 12 seconds left,
yeah.
Maybe less than 10 seconds. I'm not even sure. It was very, very little time left.
And then Georgia, I believe, kicks it out of bounds.
Well, to start with, Rico McGraw, freshman defensive back on that team, apparently ran onto the field in celebration
so
without his helmet on, which literally everyone does like every game, every big play you see. I remember just me and my brother commenting on it like the rest of the season. It was like there was that Penn State Ohio State game, may have been the same year, where they like blocked the field goal and took it back for a touchdown or something like that. Penn State, I think, upset Ohio State that year, and it was like a huge just pandemonium, like, and everyone's off the sideline and it's just going nuts. And I'm just like, Georgia's the only team that they call stuff like this on. The AJ Green excessive celebration stuff, like, oh man, it was terrible. But yeah, so that it was the 15-yard penalty to start with, and then I think you're right. I think there was something like kicking it out of bounds because, I mean, they had to run like one play to get to like midfield.
Yes.
It was something like that, yeah.
So it was just one of those dumb things where I remember that Tennessee threw the Hail Mary from like the Georgia 40. Like they were, because Dobbs went back and was at the 50-yard line when he's back in shotgun and he's running a little bit. And you only sent 3, I think, on that one. No pressure whatsoever. So Kirby doesn't put any pressure on Dobbs in that one. But yeah, I think it was just a weird collection of events that, I mean, you won't see that very often, and I don't know if we'll see that again anytime soon. But that was one of the last big Vern calls, right? Like that was a big Vern Lundquist call.
That's probably true because that's 2016. I know the Felipe Franks Tennessee. You would call it a Hail Mary, whatever you want to call it, that bomb to win the game, that walk-off bomb. I'm almost positive that was 2017. So, and I know Nestler made that call. So I think you're right. I think 2016 was the last year of Uncle Vern. And I would imagine that had to be like the best moment of the season in terms of college football, like on CBS type thing. I mean, not many games end in Hail Marys. Like that's pretty big time in a rivalry game, basically a rivalry game. So
the best one's still Kentucky LSU though. I don't know if that will ever get topped.
The best
Hail Mary.
Oh yeah, that's definitely up there. It's hard to beat that one for sure.
That one was bonkers. That was that Guy Morris was the coach of
at the time? That's right.
Guy Morris.
And that one that just had a whole nother level too, because the fans that were ready to rush the field and everything, and Nick Saban seemed pissed off even though LSU just won the game. Like, pretty standard.
Well, when people are listening to this on a Thursday, August 18th, it will be 16 days until college football.
Yes.
For most people, Matt Green, and I've got good news, though. I've already got your number 16 right here.
The real countdown.
YouTube.com/.
Yes, sir.
Right there.
The real countdown. I will say, as long as we're talking Georgia, Tennessee, 16 is a strong number for the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, you got Isaiah McKenzie, quality return
Kirby
man.
Smart.
That's what I was going to get to. Lewis Seen, first-round pick this past year, and then Kirby Smart, I mean, the man, the myth, the legend that is Georgia football at this point. So 16 is a strong one for the Bulldogs. But, yeah, we got to go 16. If we're going 16, best of all time, we got to go Peyton Manning. I mean, I almost tried to pull a fast one on you because there was another Heisman Trophy candidate, Heisman Trophy finalist that was a top pick in the 1998 draft. That was Ryan Leaf.
Yeah.
He was a quality 16, but I'm going to have to give the edge to Peyton Manning on this one.
You know what's wild too is I was looking at like biggest Heisman snubs of all time, and it is kind of wild that two of the big ones of the last 30 years were number 16s at powerhouse universities that, they just didn't win, and they went on to be first picks, Peyton Manning and Trevor Lawrence. And I thought about that where I was like,
who was the second one?
Peyton and Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is a Heisman snub?
He's a snub.
What year?
Hold on. Trevor Lawrence was the best quarterback in football for the 2 years that he was starting for Clemson. He won a national title.
Well, he's starter for 3 years.
Well, 3 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but 2019, Joe Burrow had like the greatest season in the history of college football. 2020, Devontae Smith. He wasn't even a finalist in 2020, right? Devontae Smith. I think Najee Harris honestly had a legit claim. Mac Jones did too, but. And then 2018, who's the Heisman winner? Kyler Murray? Is that 2018?
I think so. Yeah. And
so
he won the title in 2018.
I
30 touchdowns, 4 picks.
In 2018, Trevor Lawrence, he was like that was equivalent almost to what Stetson Bennett was this past year. Like Trevor Lawrence was good that year, but like.
To be clear, this is Matt _W_Green comparing Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick and one of the best college quarterbacks of all time, to
2018 Trevor Lawrence or 2018 Clemson and 2021 Georgia are almost identical teams. Like just an absolute dominant defense, number one defense in the country, and a quarterback that just had everything around him that just did the job. Like Trevor Lawrence wasn't just the best player on the team as a freshman. Like that team was loaded. Like he was really good. Obviously, he had way more upside than someone like Stetson Bennett, but they're very comparable in terms of what they were really asked to do on that team. And honestly, the numbers, it's like 30 touchdowns. What you said, like 5 picks. Stetson was like 29 and 7 or something like that this past year.
Yeah, 30 and 4.
They're pretty close, all things considered. Trevor Lawrence is obviously, I would never say Stetson Bennett's better than Trevor Lawrence, but I wouldn't call Trevor Lawrence a Heisman snub even at all. Like I don't think any of those years he was really.
Well, you don't have to do snub, but the idea that like Peyton and Trevor, who are both like, just if you poll any college coach at that time, like he's the number one pick of any quarterback that particular year. And we just see so many quarterbacks win the Heisman now, and this is a Heisman award for both Peyton. And I just think about Trevor just starting for 3 years and never winning. Like that just is bonkers to me that Trevor Lawrence, who was the best college quarterback, best college quarterback run, I think, of this last 20 years. Could we agree there? Like he was the most dominant over a 3-year stretch. Who would you take in a 3-year stretch?
In a 3-year stretch, I guess if you word it that way, like he was really good.
Like he was immediately good from his first game until he left. Like he was, there was no growing pains whatsoever. That dude was he was the number one prospect, was the guy, and it's like, all right, he's actually just going to be the guy, and he's actually going to win us a title as a freshman.
When you talk about how he did play for 3 straight years, because right off the top of my head, I'm thinking Joe Burrow and Cam Newton. Both of those really only gave you just the one amazing year. So you might have a point there. Like Justin Fields, you only got 2 seasons of that.
Right.
But I don't know. It's like a trivial thing that it's kind of crazy that a player that good didn't win the Heisman. I think Deshaun Watson's 3-year run might be. He was really just had the 2.5 years as the starter. But I feel like Deshaun Watson was a more like spectacular player in college than Trevor Lawrence was, in my opinion. Like I think Trevor Lawrence, as good as he was, he felt like just like another cog in the machine that kind of was Clemson. Like he didn't, like he was really good. Don't get me wrong, but it almost seemed like he just kind of scratched the surface of what he really needed to do. Like Deshaun Watson, it seemed like they needed everything Deshaun Watson had to compete at the national level. Like I feel like they weren't the same like built up team necessarily around him. It wasn't, I don't think, as good for Watson as it was for Lawrence. But Lawrence was obviously a great player. It is when I think of a guy who it's crazy didn't win a Heisman, the first one I think of is McFadden. I feel like Darren McFadden was robbed. He should have won a Heisman at some point. He was just a straight up baller. But Staying on the topic at hand.
There's no right answer here.
What's that?
They're like with the biggest snub and stuff like that. It's just one of those things when you think about the exercises and then just over the year, everyone can't win the award, right? Like only one guy gets to win this award. But I think for me, the thing was like the longevity, where him being the starter for 3 years and not getting it once is just kind of just really bad luck. Like you said, with the guys who had the kind of years, like the Burrow years, where you're like, well, clearly no one's taken him over Burrow that year.
Yeah.
But it's still like, well.
And then his junior year, he missed 2 games with COVID that year, and they did lose a regular season game. So, I mean, I guess it.
But
they still made the playoff.
Yeah, it wasn't him. Like, you go through it. Like, he was completing 70% of his passes that last year. Like
But Alabama, they were just so dominant offensively. Yeah. Like, just pick your poison. Like, whichever guy you wanted to give it to, you could have made a case for winning the Heisman that year.
True. And it's also like a big what if is like if Jalen Waddle doesn't get hurt in the Tennessee game, he wins the Heisman probably.
Yeah, on it. Like Waddle was the number one option when he and Devontae Smith were healthy. Like that offense was just ridiculously loaded.
Well, Matt Green, AP poll and coaches poll out. When you look at the AP poll, because we're friends of the pod, Late Kicks, Josh Pate. We got Josh Pate's preseason top 20 as well. So shout out to our guy Josh. But when you looked at the AP poll, outside of its obvious bias towards the University of Tennessee, what popped for you, Matt Green?
It's funny you say that because I feel like the Tennessee thing was kind of the first thing I noticed. I was like, Tennessee's not ranked at all? That's interesting. It just seems like the type of team that create a buzz in the off season. It's gonna be kind of hyped up. Like they're an offense team. Everyone loves offense, right? It's like even if they have their flaws defensively, that feels like the team that gets preseason hype. But I'm not on the Ole Miss bandwagon. For them to be 21 in the AP and 24 in the coaches poll, I feel like I'm missing something. Like I just to see Ole Miss ranked and see Tennessee not, I was kind of surprised by that.
Tennessee also placed 4 teams in the preseason AP top 25 poll. I noticed that was something I jotted down. Where when people are like the expectations to win, it's like I mean look at this right here. It's like 4 preseason top 25 teams: Georgia, Kentucky, Alabama, and Pitt, all in the preseason top 25.
Yeah, and that shouldn't go into them being ranked, right? Like that might be like a prediction on where they'll finish because of those teams they play, but I don't necessarily think that's how you should rank them. You should rank them based on who you think is the best, and I think that's more what Josh Pate does with his JP poll. But the other thing is like I think this poll shows you that no one has any idea what's going to happen in the Big 12. Yeah, like Oklahoma at 9, Baylor at 10, Oklahoma State at 12. We're just
Texas
like
not ranked.
Yeah, who knows? Well, in the AP poll they're not.
Yeah, that's
and then in the coaches poll they're 18 and they got 1 first place vote. Do we know who voted Texas first place? What is this card? Like, show yourself.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I also think when I was looking at this, and when you look at the AP poll too, I think I like the AP more than the coaches. But I will say the AP poll, I don't know what the case is for Notre Dame being in the top 5. I think there's too many question marks. Tyler Buchner, we have not seen it yet. Like we don't know what Marcus Freeman's going to look like as a head coach yet at all. And I mean, they have a lot of question marks. And we should probably throw Notre Dame in with our SEC preview next week just to give them some love. We'll throw in Notre Dame next week too. But I don't see it. Like a top 5 team preseason, like there's just too many question marks with this group. I think they'll be good. But I mean, they opened with Ohio State. Like they're going to get drubbed. I think they're like 3 touchdown dogs last time I checked. Like
wow, is that right?
They're down significantly. I think it's a 20-point spread if I'm remembering correctly. Last time I checked. So they're going to get blitzed most likely in that one. But I don't know. I don't see it with Notre Dame. They don't feel like a top 5 team. I would be floored if they finish in the top 5. by this.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a good friend who's a big Clemson fan, and he hit up our group thread the other day and said Clemson at 4, and was kind of surprised by that. And I was too. Like, first looking at it, Clemson at 4 looked weird, and then I'm looking at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and I'm like, well, I don't necessarily know that any of those teams are better than Clemson. So there's a lot of question marks in that kind of 6 through like 15 in the polls, honestly, or even 4 through 15 in the polls. That I wouldn't get up on the table and argue with someone that Clemson is better than Oklahoma or Michigan is better than Baylor. Like, all of those teams seem like they're right in there together. Like, we need to see these teams play, see what they got.
Also, USC 14 is a joke. Like, USC at 14 is an absolute joke. Another one where